Flock cameras are everywhere. Flock cameras. Perhaps you've seen them in your community. There's over 120,000 cameras all across the country right now, and they're used to reflexively, automatically capture everyone's vehicle and license plate as you drive by them. In other words, the blanket security state is growing to brand new levels right here in the United States of America. Now, much of this is because local police departments and local law enforcement agencies are putting up webs of security systems all around their communities. And the end result is that now practically every inch of our country is being surveilled again at new levels. Now, for years, we've looked at a place like communist China and gone, hey, wait a second, there's a big warning sign here about the surveillance state and the tyranny of the government just growing completely out of control, watching your every move, hovering over you, tracking your pattern of life. And it wouldn't take much for somebody to get inside that system and abuse their access to that information about you. In fact, there have been stories of people abusing their access to these systems to track down loved ones and who they suspect are cheating on them or using them for personal missions that have nothing to do with government initiatives. And that's a massive problem. The Fourth Amendment to the United States protects you against this type of unlawful surveillance. You are entitled to privacy. You are entitled to be able to live your life as a free American without having the hovering eye of the government watching your every move. We are not China. We do not have social credit scores. We are entitled to live freely in the United States of America without government surveillance over everything. And so these flock cameras, a lot of people think they're a problem. Now, there's a variety of people who think they're a problem. On the right, liberty-loving American patriots would like their liberty back, please. They'd like to be able to get in their car and drive from one location to another without a government record of their pattern of life. On the left, they want to get rid of flock cameras because in many cases, they don't like the idea that apparently immigration enforcement has occasionally used them in order to track down illegal aliens who are in our country. So you can see this is a bit of a complicated issue. It doesn't fall on some sort of neat political lines. But I'm always going to advocate on behalf of liberty. I'm going to always advocate on behalf of what makes America great. And I'm going to always advocate on behalf of restoring what makes America great, making America great again, in the words of one great man. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, bear with me. How about we just walk through the basics here? What if we didn't need a giant surveillance state at all? Why would anybody put up a security camera outside of their business, for instance? Why would that happen? Well, because there'd be some history of crime in the area of that business. You know, if you go to like a rough city, maybe you live in a nice community, but if you drive to a rough city, you'll see the increases in security apparatus around buildings that have anything of value within them. You'll drive into a rough area of a city and you'll see bars over all of the windows of even the homes. You'll see security cameras. You'll see security cameras not just on homes, but on light poles. You'll see constant police patrols. In other words, the rougher an area is, the more you need to up the security to try and protect the people who live within it. But what if the country wasn't that rough? What if we could restore trust to our communities? Now, for many of you, depending on where you live in the country, perhaps you grew up in a community where not everybody had to lock their door. God willing, you live in a community there right now that's like that. Well, you don't have to lock your door at night, where the kids can go out on their bikes and ride around neighborhoods and not have to worry about whether or not they would make it home safely. You could have a simple rule. When the streetlights come on, you should be home. A lot of people have had that. Why can't we get back to that? Why can't we get back to a world where you and your neighbors speak the same language? Why can't we get back to a world where you trust your neighbors, or at least know them well enough that they're not a threat to your family of any kind? Why can't we get back to that? How would we go about doing that? Well, the answer would be, 1, secure your border. 2, deport the invaders who've already come into the country by the tens of millions. 3, Restore law and order. Lock bad guys up. Don't release them when you take them into custody. Use Soros-funded whack job prosecutors all across the country. When you get bad guys in custody, either lock them up or hand them over to immigration authorities, if possible, for deportation. Enforce the law. Restore peace. Restore order. Then you don't need to have surveillance cameras everywhere. You see, the reason flock cameras are proliferating, the reason you've got license plate readers popping up all over the country, the reason for that is because of the government betrayals that led to this moment to begin with. The government screws you over, and then as a way to remedy what they've done to you, they screw you over even further. You like that arrangement? I don't. That arrangement sucks, and I think we should fight back against it. So yeah, we should stop the surveillance state from growing completely out of control. Now, I'll readily admit that I, and perhaps you, have in many ways turned over elements of our privacy for convenience. That's true. The cell phone in your pocket is tracking your movements. And if authorities really want to get into figuring out where you are, they can probably use that phone to track you and your loved ones down. That is true. And you should be cognizant of that when you're buying these products. As cheap and as convenient as they are, oftentimes the reason that they're cheap and or convenient is because you're trading something meaningful in order to get them. And that is definitely your privacy. That does happen. But those decisions should be made on your terms. Those decisions should be made on your terms. Having the government wielding tyrannical surveillance power over every lasting American, not interested at all. And so we should fight back against that. Now, some people are actually taking it into their own hands. They're straight up destroying these flock cameras. Washington Post has a piece this week that vandals are running around destroying the cameras all around the country. And they've got pictures of people who've been accused of destroying cameras. You've got paint dumped on the solar panels and the cameras themselves. You've got, that like somebody it looks like vandalized a solar panel attached to one of these flock safety cameras. So you've got all sorts of vandalism going on. People are taking it into their own hands. A bit of a Boston Tea Party against flock cameras, candidly. But what does the president think about all of this? Well, I'm glad you asked. Actually, very specifically, I'm glad our White House correspondent, Reagan Reese, asked the president of the United States. She was in the Oval Office yesterday as the president was doing yet another press conference, and she said, "Do you have an opinion on flock cameras?" Here's the president on that subject. Watch.
There's a lot of debate right now about these license plate scanners that are going up across the country. They're called flock cameras. People are worried that the police might misuse them. Have you heard of them?
Yep.
Or what's your stance?
Well, it's being studied right now. You have pros and cons, right? It's being studied right now. We'll have an answer sort of as to our views on it over the next couple of weeks.
We'll have an answer about our views over the next couple of weeks. So, as we often do, you can attempt to read into that a little bit. Clearly, the Trump administration is aware that there are some very hard feelings about these flock cameras, that people are rightly outraged about the extent to which government surveillance has grown to new levels in the United States of America. And so the Trump administration is preparing to render some sort of public judgment on all of this. Now, is it true that federal law enforcement has benefited from being able to much more rapidly track down criminals using these types of surveillance tools? Sure. And has that netted us a benefit? Okay. Yeah, in that case, I'm sure it has. But again, at what cost? Do you enjoy being patted down and having naked scanners look at you every time you travel on an airline? Is that thrilling? Unless maybe you get some sort of weird kick out of it. I don't like it at all. I think it's a humiliation theater. TSA is the most ridiculous operation that the federal government conducts against the American people. I hate it. I don't think we should have it at all. I think we should live our life with risk. You should be able to board a plane and not have the government slow down that event for no reason. I mean, the TSA for years, they've actually put them through a bunch of tests where they'll put like weapons and stuff through TSA. The government will, just to test their own employees. And like all sorts of crap makes it through anyway. So what are we doing? What the hell are we doing? Just get on your flight and board it. Let Americans be armed. It's your Second Amendment right anyway. You should be able to carry, including on a plane. Oh, that's so scandalous. There's nothing scandalous about it. It's the Constitution, stupid. We should be able to live our lives with maximum liberty. But one of the most obvious ways to restore a world in which that can be done easily and with a lot of safety is to restore law and order in the United States to begin with. Secure our borders, deport illegals, and lock up bad guys, and then restore trust in our communities. That's what we aren't just asking for. We're demanding it. And if we get that, we don't need some crazy surveillance state. To hell with that.